Hello and welcome back to Chiro Hype. I'm Dr. Pflug at Pflug Family Chiropractic located in Springfield, Illinois. I am really excited today to talk to Dr. Anderson about meal planning and all sorts of nutrition things.
Hi, I'm Dr. Todd Anderson. I have an office in Creve Coeur, Missouri, west of St. Louis. I do a lot of functional medicine, lab work, AK, and of course chiropractic. I have a background in bodybuilding, creating meal plans, and I've done that for over 10 years now. So that's kind of my thing.
As far as meal planning goes, I'd like to go over meal times, how many meals per day, macronutrients, and I know.
So there's 4 diet types that I use, and
Okay.
it's like ketogenic, so super high fat, low carb. There's a general health recommendation that I use, and that's like still a high fat diet with moderate amount of carbohydrates. It's more sustainable. I think more people should be doing that. Um, and then there's balanced that I recommend for people, and it's like it's not a 50-50 split, but it's a balanced amount of carbs and fats. I don't think it's like an optimal one, but it's one that people can stick to pretty easy.
Sure.
And then you're just kind of focused on like a caloric deficit. And then the bodybuilding, classic bodybuilding, is a high carb, low fat diet. And that's where the fat is still not cut out completely. It's about 20% fat. So those are 4 different diet types. So you can kind of talk about who each one of those fits towards or whatever. I don't know if that's confusing or if that's
No, that's awesome.
or just take certain pieces of those or just talk about one or the other.
I think maybe the general diet seems like the best one that fits for this situation.
Okay.
That's really cool how you have it broken down into 4 different types. I guess you have to because each of those are trying for different results.
Right. And it kind of depends on um, everybody's metabolism is different, everybody's activity levels are different, and I kind of fuel carbs based off their activity level.
Sure.
So active people can handle carbs, sedentary people don't. So
I like it. Okay, so just going off that, most people are sedentary. Most people are not physically active most days a week. So we should probably go over a diet that does include some sort of deficit or does plan for the result of weight loss.
yeah, and actually any of those 4, you can accomplish weight loss through a caloric deficit.
Sure.
It's just some are better than others. For instance, the ketogenic diet has gotten a lot of publicity, and there's a lot of light on that now, especially. And I think that's mainly because of the metabolic benefits of forcing your body to use fat as energy. And so you can either use macronutrients to force an adaptation to get better at burning certain macronutrients, or you can use it in your benefit for performance and use what you're already optimized to do. So sprinters versus endurance runners. Endurance runners are obviously better at burning fat and utilizing that for energy, so they should
Yeah.
be definitely focused on using fat as their macronutrient. The amount of volume they do, they'll still be intaking carbs, but as far as like sprinters go, they're definitely heavy carb eaters. Same thing with weightlifters, bodybuilders, same kind of thing.
Okay. And then do you have like what kind of good fats are we talking about here? If you're recommending the ketogenic diet to someone, what are the common staples in that diet?
Oh man, some staples are definitely avocados, eggs. I like to have like a balanced amount of fat, saturated fats, unsaturated fats.
Love it.
So almonds, walnuts are great. Coconut oil, of course, is a great source
Yeah.
of fat. You guys talked about that last time with Dr. Weston. Some other staples, olives even.
Yeah.
That's a good high fat source of food that people kind of forget about.
Yep.
Butter is good. Butter's still a good fat. So those are definitely some good ones there. Is there any other ones you
I don't
like
think
to eat?
so. I'm just looking like, I'd say another place I get some fats is like salad dressing, and that's it's tough to find a really like high nutritionally valuable salad dressing. I know.
Right. It's true.
A lot of people just end up
Olive
making
oil.
their own. Yes, olive oil, good. Um, I think you did cover all mine, and I like the organic butter. The unsweet butter is what I like to use.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with you. Kerrygold has a grass-fed, organic butter. It's really good quality.
That is what I is that from that's the one from Ireland?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Irish pure cream
Yes.
butter.
Good.
Yeah, I know there's a big thing in Wisconsin right now. They're not allowing them to sell it because it's the big dairy capital of the nation. So there's this big political push to keep Kerrygold, the importing of that, into Wisconsin right now.
Oh, wow.
Pretty crazy.
Man, I
It's
hope
that
there's
big of a
oh,
deal.
I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, I just said, yeah, it's just that big of a deal. It's not, it's just crazy.
It is. And a lot of people, a lot of people like to cheat and use the margarine or some sort of
Or,
other horrible.
yeah, definitely not. You don't want
Yeah.
to be using vegetable oils, margarine, hydrogenated oil. Stay away from all that.
Yes. Very important to use natural organic butter, and then like I said, I like the unsweetened because probably a few less calories and less sugar in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And another good source of fat is grass-fed beef. When you get the
Good.
grass-fed, you get a lot better quality fat. You get the omega-3s in there as well. So um, I know that's the big difference. Everybody asks the difference between getting grass-fed and not, where
Hmm.
they find that there's a higher omega-3 content in those, the anti-inflammatory fat. So
Sure.
the best,
Same thing with salmon. And you
yeah,
did say eggs. Man, it just slipped right by. I didn't even think about fats from meat sources, from protein sources as being
yeah,
valuable. But of course, they are very valuable.
yes, 100%.
And almost like that anti-inflammatory power that, like you said, grass-fed beef has in its fat, as well as salmon has really healthy fat. Just the anti-inflammatory power that carries is just it's unmatched.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing. Let food be thy medicine. Um, you know, it's the easiest thing. People are always looking for, should I be taking fish oil? Should I be doing
Yeah,
this or that? And, just changing your diet is going to make the biggest difference in taking some supplement.
exactly. Because a supplement, at the end of the day, it's supposed to supplement your diet. It's not supposed to be,
That's right.
you
You
know,
add it to an already well balanced diet for sure.
yes, ideally, yeah. Um, and then so obviously you're using physical activity to kind of create this calorie deficit, but then so what's the lowest amount of calories you would recommend for someone like me? I'm 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. Say I was trying to lose maybe 10 pounds. What would be the recommended amount of calories you think I should be getting?
Well, for you in particular, you're a very active guy. Um, so,
Thank you.
I can't tell you the exact amount of calories because I don't have those calculations in front of me, but you can go onto any calculator and just use a BMR calculator, put
Yeah.
in your activity and everything. But as far as like a macronutrient balance, someone like you could handle a little bit more carbs than somebody, the general population who's not very active, um, and you can't sustain that kind of energy. So I tend to start people on like a 500 calorie deficit. So
Okay.
once you know where your maintenance is, you calculate that. 500 calories usually equates to 1 pound of fat loss per week. And
Yeah.
so that's a good goal. Either that or about, if you're a little bit heavier, you can lose a little bit more. So they say about 1% of your body weight. So in your case, you're 200 pounds, you could lose 2 pounds a week
Right.
safely.
And that would be 1,000 calories a day times seven. That means I'm in a deficit of 7,000 calories that week.
Right. So that would
Divided by
be,
3,500 is 2 pounds. Yeah.
yeah, in a perfect world in a vacuum, that'd be 2 pounds of fat
Right.
every week. But you never know. Things don't always balance out.
Because we don't live in a vacuum, right? It's interesting. I like the calculations that you threw out there. So and I did try and just go over it just a little bit more, but like so what we're trying to do is create a 500 calorie deficit per day multiplied times 7 because I'm doing that 7 days a week. So that equals minus 3,500 calories, which is 1 pound of fat.
Yes.
Very
Yep.
cool.
Correct.
Very cool.
So, I mean, from there, if once you're dialed in, you know the types of foods to eat. You have the calorie, the energy balance there. Um, then you can break it down into meal timing,
Hmm.
meal frequency. And I know you and Dr. Weston talked about this a lot last time about meal frequency, the types of people that can deal with fasting versus the people that shouldn't be fasting. Um, so I think the people in the most dire need are the people with blood sugar issues.
Sure.
Those are the types of people that need to be eating every few hours. They can handle it, even small meals, eating a good breakfast. Um, those are great. You know, I do like the intermittent fasting idea. I do it. The whole idea is that you're pushing yourself into, again, forcing an adaptation. You're forcing yourself to burn more fat by not eating any food. You're just naturally you're going to have to utilize the fat you already have stored.
So how do you intervene on someone's life? Because take me for example, I wish I could eat every 3 hours, but I don't. I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes there's 5 or 6 hours in between those meals. So like,
So
I was thinking about even bringing some olives. Like before you said that, I was thinking about bringing just a baggie of olives, but even that gets inconvenient at times.
oh, for sure. So I mean, you do have to do your homework. You have to um, I know a lot. What works for a lot of people is just creating liquid meals. So in the morning, making like a green smoothie, make a big container of it, and then put it into two, and drink one as a snack, and then drink the other later.
Sure.
So liquid meals are easy. Bringing almonds in a bag, olives. It doesn't take too long to throw something in a baggie like that.
Right.
Um,
Do you have any
but other than that, it's doing meal prepping
yeah.
at the beginning of the week.
Do you have any concerns with eating only one macro at a time? So like if I had a snack of olives and almonds, that seems like just fat. Do you have any issues with that?
With fat in particularly, it's not as big of a concern with me. For instance, almonds, it's a good source. It has some fiber in there. You've got some protein
Yep.
and you have some fat.
True.
It's not the end of the world. And even if you were just eating straight coconut oil, it's not going to have the effect on your blood sugar like eating, a bowl of oatmeal just by itself.
Okay.
Whereas, you're getting that surge, that insulin surge. Maybe not just oatmeal. Maybe that's not a good example, but a sugary cereal or something.
Right.
Um, but in general, yeah, you want a well balanced. You want all three of those macronutrients present. You're going to have a better assimilation of those nutrients overall.
Okay. So what do you use? Like what type of protein would you recommend throwing in that snack then? Because you're right, almonds do have some protein. Like what, a couple grams per serving?
Yeah, not a lot.
Yeah.
Well, whey protein is my go-to for people that are busy and have, it's also cheap. I think it's like 70 cents a serving.
Oh, okay.
So instead of eating a 4-ounce chicken breast, you can just have a scoop of protein.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of micronutrients in there, vitamins and minerals, but it's still a good source of protein. And, it gets rid of the excuse of A, the price, and B, the not having enough time to prep your food.
Right, because it takes way less time to do that than to cook and eat a chicken breast.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
But again, you're missing out on some of those micronutrients. So there's a downfall, but if you're using it as a snack or what sometimes people call it a bridge meal between those breakfast, lunch, and dinners, they'll have liquid meals in between those. It shouldn't be an issue.
A bridge meal, man, I'm learning a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then so, like, what's the latest you eat during the day? Sometimes I eat right before bed. I know that has to be horrible for me.
There's big controversy out on that, and people say definitely no carbs before bed, and I get it. I don't see it as big of an. There are bigger issues at hand that need to be tackled. So instead
Okay.
of stressing out about, oh, I'm hungry, I really shouldn't be eating this late. I'm just gonna skip this meal, and then that anxiety carries over to the next day, and you binge the next day. So like, it's just better to get more bang for your buck, kind of the 80-20 principle, where for 20% of the effort, you need to focus on the things that give you 80% of the results instead of focusing on that last 20%.
Right.
Those are the things that maybe dial into after you've been, and for some people it's not a big deal. So, avoid eating those later meals um, in the day. But for instance, when I fasted, I'll fast all the way throughout the day and I'll have one huge, large meal at the end of the day. And in that case, it's not a big deal at all.
Okay, I want to talk more about that, but I also want to get your opinions before we move on. I also want to get your opinion on like carb loading.
Mm-hmm.
So front loading versus back loading, or obviously it probably is different for different types of physical activity programs.
Yeah. So my personal opinion on those is that, those type of protocols will make you feel different. And so you'll be in a different state of mind. You'll feel changes no matter what. It's going to drastically put you in a different physiologic state. And so you're more apt because you do feel like something's happening. Whereas like weight loss is very slow. So it's
Yeah.
hard to stick with it. It's like, well, this isn't really worth my time. So my personal opinion with backloading is that people really like that feeling of just like blowing up, having this huge insulin surge. Yes, I still think physiologically the science makes sense that you're going to have some performance increases there from a training aspect. I don't think I would recommend that for the general public still,
Okay.
um, because a lot of those backloading protocols are like obscene amount of carbs. Like uh, I'm blanking on the guy's name that came out with it, but the big backloading guy, he'll eat tubs of ice cream, pizza.
Oh
I
my
mean, he takes
gosh.
it to a whole nother level, and not for the general population, that's for sure.
So what's the idea there? That basically you've starved your system of carbohydrate energy for so
Yeah,
long that it'll take anything.
it's improving your insulin sensitivity.
Right.
So what you do is you work out. So again, enforcing more sensitivity
Yep.
to insulin. And so now you're just craving insulin and you throw a ton of it at the cell and it just pulls it all in. Um, so yeah, that's the point, is just to create as much insulin sensitivity throughout the day and then bombard it with insulin and you get a big anabolic effect from it.
Sure. That sounds like almost like a snake diet, or
Yeah.
eating once a day, one big meal. But snakes don't eat every day. I'm sure they eat like every couple weeks. But I
Yeah.
think relatively that is almost like a snake diet. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, well, especially in animals in the wild, I mean, it goes back to fasting. Like, we
Yeah.
should be able to maintain our own blood sugar. We shouldn't have to, like, you shouldn't be getting hangry throughout the day. You shouldn't be getting energy drops throughout the day. You
Yeah.
should be able to hold sustainable energy throughout the day without having something to eat.
Sure.
But, if you're already having dysregulation, you need to start creating some regulation with frequent meals. So for those type of people, frequent meals. For other types of people who don't have any blood sugar issues, I mean, you should be able to go 18 hours without eating. I mean, I don't have any issues.
Wow. You're
I
still
mean,
productive. That's crazy.
yeah, and I did it there was a good 8 weeks. I did it, and I also did ketogenic while I did it.
Uh
And so combined a couple fads there. But,
huh.
I went from like, I didn't even know I had brain fog until I
Yeah.
went and tried that. The first week or two, it was a little difficult, but after that, it was just stable the whole day. I had coffee in the morning still, but there was no crashes, and I went to sleep, hit my head on the pillow and just went to sleep. There was no anxiety or racing thoughts. It was great.
So it sounds like that was actually made you feel pretty good.
Yeah, and for me, it definitely was, and it's going to be different for everybody. So I was kind of, I mean, who knows the damage that I maybe put myself through before that. And then, so this type of giving
Yeah.
my digestive system a rest and, giving 18 hours to recover from all those issues, constant stress on the GI system, maybe that did me good and other people it wouldn't work so well.
That's a concept that I almost forgot about. Was every time you eat, you are stressing the GI. You're stressing, every organ that's involved with digestion and absorption and assimilation. But obviously, it's a natural stress. You're supposed to go through that. But it's really interesting, the effects people get from giving their system a break.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you're coming from a background of like not eating well.
Yep.
So not only are you stressing it naturally, but you also have these stressors where your liver is just constantly trying to catch up. It's detox, detox, detox. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you give it good 18 hours rest every day. And, it just has to deal with those short bouts of stress.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
that's super cool. Because a lot I don't I've it seems like a lot of people probably don't, this is new to a lot of people.
yeah.
So I think it's hard to convince, the everyday person that they should try to change up their eating, especially to get extreme modifications like eating only once a day. And
Yeah, it
then,
doesn't work. People have families.
yeah.
Uh, they have husbands and wives that control what's in the kitchen. So,
So these are
I
people
think,
who have goals that they have to, result with.
yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's probably the second biggest excuse I get is that, well, my husband, he still eats this way, so now I have to cook two different meals. Like, so you really need to get your significant other on board
Yeah.
before you go on that. That's going to be huge.
Yeah. And that'll probably make things more fun too in the relationship. Not to say that people have problems, but I think kind of unifying and gathering thoughts to kind of unify and create a plan for both people that works is a good idea.
Yeah, it's definitely a recipe for success if both parties can be on the same page when it comes to health.
Sure.
Obviously, that's a huge component. Money is obviously a big thing. There's some other things we can get into, um, but for this instance, yeah, health is huge. So, what you're eating, people really care about that stuff.
Right. And then can we talk about protein intake? Like, I guess if you're eating only once a day, you just have to compile everything into that one meal, obviously. So what's your macro breakdown for that meal? Because I know you know.
Yeah, well, yeah. Um, so, there's a lot we can talk about with protein.
Yeah.
For that one meal a day, I still keep the macros the same.
Wow.
And again, your body's going to deal with it. It's got 18 hours. The more food, the bigger bulk. Your GI system will actually slow down to accommodate for that.
Hmm.
So, I've not found that it's been an issue. But again, if you do have GI problems already, you have like an autoimmunity in your gut, maybe it's not the best route for you.
Sure.
But for a general healthy population, I've never seen people have issues with it. So yeah, I don't change up my protein. As far as the total amount of protein, I know people, I'm a moderate protein guy for the most part. I tend to recommend about 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass.
Hmm.
So not everybody knows their body fat percentage, but for the general public, I think 100 grams of protein is a nice even round number,
Sure.
and you're going to be safe eating that amount of protein.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another huge benefit that kind of clicks with people is that with eating more protein, it's the most thermogenic, so it takes the most amount of energy to burn up.
Good.
So you end up burning more calories just by eating protein
Right.
versus eating carbs or eating fats. So it's very important to eat that, at least even from an energetic standpoint. If you're just naturally burning more calories by eating more protein.
Sure. Any thoughts on how much fiber per day? I know there's a national recommended daily allowance of like, what is it, 35 grams of protein?
35 grams of
Or fiber.
fiber.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to throw you off there.
It varies. That's a good start for a lot of people because there's a lot of people not anywhere close to that. So
Exactly.
I would say that's a good starting goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. What are your thoughts on fiber? Do you have a specific recommendation or?
35, and once you start getting close, you're gonna notice so much difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like you said,
That's a pretty good number.
yes.
Yeah.
Because like you said, most people don't get a ton of fiber, and certainly not the recommended allowance or amount. But there's no fiber in soda, and
No.
so if you're eating a lot of these processed and unhealthy, unnatural, quote unquote foods, then you're probably not getting much fiber at all. And so when you start to add foods that have a lot of fiber, like mainly vegetables, and then there are some like what do you use for fiber?
I mean, vegetables. I
Yeah.
mean, you said it right there. As far as like a good vegetable intake recommendation that I use is I stole something from Dr. Terry Walls.
Okay.
So she's a MD, a functional medicine doc. She wrote a book about autoimmunity and treating that. But I like the way she categorized vegetables. So what she did was she did leafy green vegetables.
Yep.
You have multicolored vegetables, which also includes fruit, so just multicolored fruits, vegetables, and then sulfur-rich vegetables.
Ah.
So that would be like mushrooms, onions, leeks, things like that.
Leeks.
So for general population, if you can get like 1 cup in each section, that's a good start. But she'll recommend 2 to 3 cups for autoimmune type cases.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to get plenty of fiber if you're doing that.
Man, in this whole autoimmunity thing, you've used that term a couple times. Just basically, your antibodies that you create are fighting yourself, and
Yeah.
most times that does happen to start in the gut because that's where a lot of unhealthy particles get introduced to your system. Things start to go awry when you do that consistently over a long period of time. I really like the idea of fighting your body's autoimmune issues with diet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no better way to do it. I go back to Terry Walls, and her big thing with using that over supplements, using those vegetable recommendations, is that through your diet, you get all of these effects. Like you said, with vegetables, you're getting fiber, you're getting these micronutrients, you're getting these chemicals in there that we don't even know exactly what they do, but we see all these benefits. So you're getting tons of benefits from multiple angles through different mechanisms in the body. You're benefiting from all of those through just supporting it in a good, healthy diet. So,
Sure.
I mean, supplements are great when they're used properly, and same kind of thing.
Right.
Fish oils, certain vitamins. I mean, I always go back to a good, healthy diet. So
Absolutely. Because a lot of people get tricked into buying, a cheaper supplement that they might find at the grocery store or Walgreens or CVS, and it's so low quality, it's cheap, so it's so low quality that it's really not doing anything for your system. So those people are they're thinking they're living a healthy lifestyle and they're not seeing the results, so then they just throw away the healthy lifestyle.
yeah, absolutely. And then you work and you just focus on one particular micronutrient or vitamin. You take vitamin D for your immune system, and you're like, oh, this is going to help my immune system, and that may bring it up, but there's still going to be a weak point.
Yes.
You're only attacking it from one angle. So when you're eating these vegetables,
That's
you're
great.
attacking from multiple angles. You're attacking multiple links in the chain opposed to just supporting one.
Right. Right. No, that's a tactic I learned in the Army infantry too. You got to flank the opponent. You know what I mean? You can't just attack it head on. Love
That's
that. No, I just love that you use the word attack because these are real problems, and the thing is, we know, like you and I were obviously discussing solutions to those problems, and what does it take for those solutions to work? It takes a lot of commitment and dedication, and you can't just live a convenient lifestyle.
Yeah.
You really have to put your health first, and you have to really up your your self-responsibility, personal responsibility is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I'd like to say, people who are a little bit reluctant to things and they're not, there's these people that want you to do everything right, 100% right away. And people have trouble following that, and they'll write it off. Well, they're not sick enough yet to follow this kind of diet, to make these kind of lifestyle changes. So what I like to do is just list out all the things that we've been talking about, and then just take 1 or 2 of those things and add it to your week next week. And just pick things that wouldn't add a lot of stress in your life, just things that'd be like, oh, that'd be easy.
Right.
I could add a cup of green vegetables in every day. That wouldn't be a big deal. And just start adding one thing every week or every couple weeks, but don't exhaust your willpower. Don't drain your stress levels by doing that, because then that's just going to be a recipe. There's too much other stress in your life to add one more thing. So just layered in, I found that we get great success from that. It's slower, but it's sustainable.
And that great. That's a really good point. The speed in which you're making these changes is very important to the overall outcome. You know what I mean? Because if you're someone who just like you said, with taking a fish oil, or I forget the product you used, or vitamin D, you said vitamin D for immune system, right? But you probably won't see much of a change if you just start taking that one pill, every day.
Right.
So you really have to slow down the changes you make, but then those changes need to be long lasting.
Yeah. And it really helps, to go in and see somebody, like Dr. Pflug is really great with this stuff. So, if you go in and see him and talk, he can walk you through it, and just week by week, just kind of just hammer things in, and it's just a progress. You're just working towards, optimal health and supporting yourself. So
Sure.
it's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight or in a week or in a month. And it helps to have someone there coaching you.
Good. No, and obviously Dr. Anderson can help you, just as good or more than I can. But I'd like to, just a few changes that I do ask people to implement. Right off the bat, I want them drinking as much water as they need,
Yeah.
right? So that's a big one, because I just saw something the other day that said like a third of perceived hunger is actually thirst.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just drinking a big glass of water in the morning. That's gonna be huge. It'll prevent overeating. It'll help with stomach acid. I think you guys talked about that too last
We
time.
did, yeah.
Just a lot of good benefits. So that's an easy change. I think that's a good step one for sure.
Yep. And then I'd probably go fiber, like you said, vegetables. My rule is twice as many vegetables as fruit, and I didn't create that rule. It's just one that I found to be very effective.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Because then that does two things. It shows people that fruit needs to be limited, because it is, again, it's sugar at the end of the day.
It is true. Yeah.
And then it shows people that they need to eat a lot of vegetables, a ton of vegetables. Like the more vegetables, the better. I don't even know if there's an end point. Just eat as many vegetables as you can.
Yeah, if you try the 2 to 3 cups, that's a plate full. That's a dinner plate full of vegetables. So if you try that, prepare for change.
Right, exactly. Be ready when it's time.
Coming.
Yeah, when it's time to go to the bathroom. Absolutely. I knew you were getting at that. Man, you know what? Vegetables are actually easy to consume for me. I've been doing it for a few years now, eating a lot of vegetables. But I use a lot of butter. The butter that we talked about. So how do we get those good fats into our diet? You cook with butter and you cook with coconut oil, right? So I do like to use that organic, unsweetened butter. Maybe up to like 3 tablespoons. If I'm cooking, maybe a cup or 2 of vegetables. You know what I mean? So that when you're actually cutting the butter off, it looks like a lot, but keep in mind that that's good for you.
Yeah, it's so hard for people to get over that. It's just because of all the bad publicity that's been around saturated fat in general. It's going to take some undoing, but you just need to look into it from a biochemical, just straight science perspective, instead of looking at flyers and advertisements and, just been messing with everybody's brains.
Absolutely. And I think looking at the sources you get your nutrition information from, you have to be aware of their motivation. You know what I mean? Like, obviously people are putting information out there to make money off of it, but is this a corporation? Is this 2 nice guys like you and I who are actually passionate about nutrition science and care to discuss it in our free time? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
you can put anything on the internet, so it is really hard to filter that stuff out. So it's important to try and get things from different sources, and and don't get attached to studies. Every time someone says like, oh well, there's this study that says, I just kind of pause, and it's like, the more studies you look at, the more you realize they're not really the end all be all, because you can pretty much find a study that says either whatever your opinion is.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
It's too easy to manipulate data and extrapolate information from research to use it as an end all be all. It's a good thing to pull in as a tool, but you can't just pick a single study and draw a conclusion.
Sure. And I think, not to say that clinical experience trumps research, but it's certainly a valuable component to just the mindset of a doctor or just a nutrition practitioner,
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially with clinical intuition, you're able to pull in multiple variables, and so you can recognize that in patients.
Yeah.
So you can see that there are similarities, and that, well, this works for this type of person. Well, let's try it over here with this person. You can't really pick that out in research very well.
Sure. Good. So I think just for advice to the everyday person, look up how much water your body needs based off your weight, and make sure you're getting that in. Try and switch your fats to more good fats, like the ones we gave specific examples of: avocados, organic butter, coconut oil, olive oil, and then make sure you're getting enough fiber as well, because that's very important to just overall health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess it is. I guess it's all important to overall health. But the fiber, like Dr. Anderson was saying, is where you're certainly going to notice a difference and be ready for that change.
Yeah, and especially with the quality of fiber that you're getting in, you're getting all these
Yep.
other micronutrients in there. It's and you're covering a deficiency that's been there for a while. So, you're supporting a weak link.
Yep. Man, just the other day I had a patient in who was having watery stools, diarrhea, a lot, and that sucks because no one wants to deal with that.
No.
So, and I asked him about his diet. Of course, he ate like no vegetables. I think making that change, adding vegetables and just adding more fibers, would change his life just so much.
Yeah, just more bulk to his
Right.
food. Yeah, that's someone who really needs to make a change. Bowel
Certainly.
movements are such a good indication of. We don't like to talk about it, but it's a really good indication of what's going on inside. Bloating,
Absolutely.
gas, so any discomfort after eating, like it shouldn't be. People write it off as normal. Reflux, these things, people preemptively take, acid reflux pills before they eat,
Yeah.
just preemptively, because they know they're going to get it, and they're not going to make any changes to, naturally to fix the issue.
Right. And I think that's a part of what was going on too, with this patient that I mentioned, watery loose stools, due to proteins not being broken down to the degree that they should be with stomach acid, and then those whole proteins still going through the digestive tract, going down, not being digested because they're not small enough to assimilate into the system. So then they're now solutes, pulling all the water into that stool, and then that's why it's watery as it comes out. You mind that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
No, I like that. But like you said, it all comes down to that stomach acid
Yeah, for sure.
and
I mean,
fiber.
top to bottom, it's all a good indication that you need to make a change. And fiber's a great start for making those changes. We could talk about food logs
Oh, good.
if you wanted to go that route, like MyFitnessPal.
Good.
But other than that, I mean, that was my big thing for a while. But it's harder for people to follow those types of things. So,
Doesn't it get you more involved though? It makes you a part of it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Instead of being told what to do, you now become you now play a role in this plan.
yeah. So, I guess we can talk about that. We can talk about that for a little bit. So the very first thing that I'll have somebody do is follow a food journal. So I'll give them maybe some general macronutrients to follow. Maybe, if nothing else, I'll give them the protein goal. So say 100 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And I'll give them the calories to make sure that they're in a deficit. And so then they'll track their food. They'll kind of keep the foods they're eating initially to start. It's about making those slow changes.
Yeah.
Kind of keep the same foods in, but you're creating portion control by having them track their food. So you can do that through an app called MyFitnessPal. That's the one I love to use. I think I used it for over a year straight every day, and I was still able to be flexible. They call it flexible dieting. So on the weekends you can still eat, out with your family and not have an issue with, just ordering a salad or whatever it may be.
Right.
So there's still some leniency there. So I see some success with that from a weight loss standpoint. Just having people track with MyFitnessPal. They have a barcode scanner, so if you have, You know,
Oh, okay.
a box of almonds or something. You just scan the barcode and it automatically will put it in there. You just say how many ounces you're eating. So the downfall from it is that you will have to weigh out your food,
Mm.
but you do have to take it's you taking an initiative in your health
Yep.
by doing that. So you know, for the most part, I think it will work. Um, so tracking your food, I think, is you know, a really good start.
Got to
Um,
do it. Yeah.
so I don't know. Do you tend to have people follow food logs?
I do. I have them do a 3-day food log before we do our first consultation. So that way I know, everything that they're putting into their system and then what habits they're forming too. So I know where to take it easy. You know what I mean? If someone's drinking a ton
Yeah,
of soda, I'm not going to say, okay, cut out all soda.
right. Because it's not going to happen.
Exactly. I'm gonna destroy our relationship. I'm gonna burn the bridge between patient
Right.
and
They're not
doctor.
coming back.
Sure, absolutely. But dude, what about this? That's a really good app, MyFitnessPal. I didn't know you could scan the food item in and then just put how much you ate. That's really cool.
I mean, if you're at a restaurant too, now it senses your location. So if you're at, I mean, you wouldn't be going to Chick-fil-A or Denny's or anything, but if you were, it would, you know, it senses that you're there, and then it actually pulls their menu up,
Wow.
and you can go through and look at all of things, you know, protein, carbs, fats, calories, everything.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful, and it's free.
Cool. Um, Now there's this other brand new app I heard of, Macros. Tell me about that.
Yeah, macro boxes. So this may not be the most ideal app for starting out dieting. It was initially created by me to take some of those healthy foods that we've been talking about. So
Sure.
you're already following like good quality sources of food. Everything listed on there is paleo. It's anti-inflammatory. So now you have all of those foods in line. So maybe you've been following a healthy diet for a while, and you've reached some plateau. So now we really need to manipulate macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, and also the caloric value of what you're eating
Mm-hmm.
to initiate some weight loss to get past that plateau. So you put in everything. The front page is a calculator, and so it'll calculate how many protein, carbs, fats you need based off your weight, height, and whatever else variables are on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you select between one of 4 diets. And so there's a general health option. There's some other ones, but I think for most people, the general health option is going to be good. You're going to be eating a substantial amount of fats, moderate to low amount of carbs, and then a moderate amount of protein. So I think it's the kind of the ideal range for most people. So I would suggest that. There's an explanation on the app for it, but so anyways, after you put that in, you'll get this page of the list of foods, and then how much of each food you should be eating per meal. And so you can kind of construct your own meal plans from that just by selecting foods, whether it be chicken, rice, and almonds. You know, it's kind of the typical bodybuilding kind of
Yeah.
meal. But you can do sweet potatoes, whatever. There's a variety amount of carbs, protein, and fat options on there for you. But again, it is a limited amount of food list. So not necessarily the initial intervention that I tend to recommend for people,
Right.
but you know, if you do want to go all in, full throttle right away, you know, it's a good app to check out. You know, it's $4.99 on the App Store,
Nice.
just on iPhone though.
And it's macro boxes, correct?
Macro boxes, personalized dieting.
That's amazing. I didn't realize they had that type of stuff out there. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
No, because like you said, what's missing from there? Nothing. So really, that's going to give you all the information you need. Yeah, I really like that. I really like that
Yeah.
idea.
You have you can also select the number of meals you want. So whether you do want to eat 6 meals a day, or if you want to split those portions into one large meal a day, you can do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a calculator. It's very manipulable. You know, however you want to use it, it's there for you.
Cool. Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem.
Dr. Anderson, it was awesome talking to you. I actually learned more than I planned on.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was going to learn something, but that was great. That was really good talking with you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.